Horology, the final frontier. These are the voyages of the urban gentry. Its continuing mission to explore strange new watches, to seek out cool vintage pieces with pure class, to boldly go where no watch channel has gone before. Okay, hi guys, and welcome to the show. Today I'm going to be doing another affordable alternatives to an extremely iconic watch indeed, and also happens to be my favorite Rolex of all time, and we're talking about the Rolex Explorer. Born out of, as the name implies, out of exploration. I've done a video all about it, its unique history. Have a look back. I'll leave a link in case you missed it. I do urge you to check it out. It is an incredible timepiece nonetheless. But what happens if you want something in a similar style, that very legible, clean design, that very symmetrical looking with those immediately recognizable applied markers, or it doesn't have to be applied, but I'm talking about the numerals at the 3, 6, and 9. The rules are very simple. It must not be a homage and it must be more affordable, preferably with its own unique identity. And all the watches we talk about today do have, well, most of them do have a great legacy of their own. Now, you guys know, quick disclaimer before I get into this, I only talk about watches I have had hands-on experience with. So all the watches I talk about today are my own recommendations. That highlights another point. This is totally my own opinion. Please do feel free to add your suggestions down below in the comments. Let's try and help out as many people as we can. One last thing before I completely forget to do it. Yep, wristwatch check. And as this is, fingers crossed, Seiko Saturday, if I can get this video edited in time, I'm wearing my little Panther Cub. I've kind of christened it my latest SKX, and I dread to think how many SKXs I've owned. But yeah, very much still in my honeymoon phase and absolutely loving it. So let's crack on. Number 10. And it is the Victorinox Swiss Army Night Vision. Now, as the name suggests, it has an LED flashlight built into it. So actually, if you were really mountaineering, especially if you had to go into a cave or at night, this would be a fantastic tool to have it on your wrist at all times. Very, very cool indeed. Now, Victorinox are a brand, I've owned many of their watches, fantastic, affordable quality, most notably known, obviously, as being the world's largest manufacturer of pocket knives. The Swiss Army name comes from being the official supplier to the Swiss military for, you know, they did bayonets and, of course, combat knives, all the rest of it, and have since exploded into everything from cutlery to outdoor gear, luggage, you name it. A really, really cool brand. So this particular watch, it's 42 millimeters, it's quartz, of course. We get that field watch aesthetic with 24-hour markings, stainless steel. We also get scratch resistant sapphire. You can get this in a variety of colors. I believe there's a green, there's black, the white dial. I really like the white dial. It has a very kind of tooly aesthetic, no nonsense. We get the applied markers at 12, 9, and 3 instead of the 6. We get a very nice symmetrically placed date at the 6 o'clock. I highly recommend them. You're getting that Swiss quality at an affordable price. This is only 300 bucks. Very robust. It's actually perfect. It almost more suits the environment than the Explorer, dare I say it. Don't crucify me for that claim. But look, you know, you have that quartz Swiss-made reliability and the added bonus of a torch and date. Water resistance is only 50 feet, so it does fall a bit short there. Number 9. Well, we had to include a Hamilton in the list, and You know, Hamilton are the go-to Swiss brand, especially when it comes to the entry level, and I adore them. Founded in Lancaster, Pennsylvania in 1892, their history is second to none. They have starred in over 400 movies. The choice of the blue suede shoed king of rock and roll. They really cut their teeth in terms of their railroad pocket watches and marine chronometers. Their field watches, in my view, are arguably the most iconic. They've made field watches for World War I, World War II, Vietnam, the Korean War, I think, all the way up to the present day, and they still do fantastic field watches. This particular reference is the Hamilton Carkey Field Automatic. It's the H70505933, 50 meters water resistance. You can get it in a variety of really cool different choices of, there's even a PVD one. I had to fight myself not to buy one myself. Unfortunately, it is 42 millimeters, so a little bit too large for me. But the dial is stunning. We have those apply numerals. Very symmetrical layout with the day and date complication. Inside we have the H30 caliber, which is based on the ETA 2836. A massive benefit of being in the Swatch group. Undoubtedly, sapphire glass, a clean classic design, that smooth bezel. Stylistically at a glance, very, very similar, in my opinion, to the Rolex Explorer 1016, which is probably my favorite, and I almost got one. They're just a little bit too expensive for me, but they have patinaed lume. Well, not all of them do, but this particular reference does, so it gives it a more of a 1016 feel. 24-hour markings, typical of a field watch, and we even get a display back. So a tasteful, timeless design, an amazing legacy. It's difficult not to beat. Actually, its history predates the Rolex Explorer, and not bad for $500 or around the $500 mark. Number 8. Well, it's very difficult not to talk about Rolex without talking about its most famous rival, and that is Amiga, of course. And we are looking at the Amiga Railmaster coaxial master chronometer 40 millimeters. Now, this was a recent reissue of the classic Railmaster. Now, the Railmaster is very much Amiga's not forgotten about, but underappreciated icon. It came out in 1957 alongside two other giant iconic watches, and that's probably why it's a little bit overshadowed by its bigger brothers, the Seamaster 300 and of course Omega Speedmaster. Now, in that trilogy we saw a reissue of them all together. When was it? 2017 Baselworld. Now, the Railmaster has a fascinating history, and if I just bring in my iPad here, have a look at this article. Sorry, it's a little bit bright. Let me turn that down. It's on the springbar.com, and it's a collector's guide to the Railmaster. The 57 original you're not going to get for less than a Rolex Explorer, and actually a lot of them cost even more because they've become quite sought after. There's not that many of them. Amiga developed this watch as a response to the IWC Engineer and the Rolex Milgauss. So it's designed to have a high resistance to magnetism. Very simple. Actually, its design mirrors the Explorer. Similar thinking. Simple, legible layout, less complications, less risk of things going wrong. That wonderful symmetry in the dial layout. Now, the version I'm looking at, let me just get rid of this. The reference is the 220124020. So it's 40 millimeters. It really pays homage with that kind of almost like shark teeth markers, 12, 9, 3 and 6. Lovely little lollipop second hand. We have the Amiga caliber 8806 in it. So this is chronometer certified, that patinaed look on the loom. It's a very handsome piece, and you can certainly see the similarities. What I like about this particular one, it contains a lot of special technology, unique to Amiga. So we got the coaxial escapement in there. You guys know from my Seamaster video, I went into great detail about the development. Well, actually, I've talked about it many times. So essentially, it's a special escapement designed to reduce friction and therefore boost its longevity. It has greater precision, stability and durability. Not only that, we get the SI14 silicon balance spring, and we have the Naiad lock system as well, which, if you remember my Seamaster video, I discussed how that technology developed. It's 150 meters water resistant. This can resist magnetic fields of greater than 15,000 gauss. So this is a really tough cookie indeed. However, the price is almost the same as the Rolex Explorer. Possibly a little bit less used perhaps, then you will find it for a lot less. Okay, so it's not a mountaineering watch, but essentially the thinking, the thought is very similar. Number 7, another Swiss brand that I hugely admire. It is, of course, Oris. And this, unfortunately, it doesn't really have a name. It's just the classic Oris Date. However, if you look at it, its uncanny resemblance to the Explorer is undeniable. Oris is a channel favorite, still independent, founded in 1904. They only make mechanical timepieces, although they did make some quartz watches in the 80s, I believe, but now they only make mechanical timepieces. So this is based on the Sellita SW200, 50 meters water resistant. We got that very simple but beautifully done case. A Jubilee-esque bracelet, dare I say. Wonderful applied markers at the 12, 9 and 3. A little date tucked away at the 6 o'clock. Extremely tastefully done. Very clean design. It is unfortunately 42 millimeters, but that is a crowd pleaser nonetheless. My favorite feature about this watch is the guilloche dial. It is absolutely stunning. Not necessarily noticeable at first glance, but you know, if you've ever seen one of these in the flesh, as you angle it, it catches the light beautifully. So really nice extra bit of detail. And we had to have an Oris in there. I mean, we can't make this list without an Oris. Very, very affordable. We're looking at about $500-600 around that mark. Well, for a Swiss automatic, I think it's an outstanding deal. It's also only 10 millimeters thick, so very, very slender. And I almost forgot we get a display back, so you can see that iconic red rotor. Number 6, Timex. I can't do this list without including a Timex. Founded in 1854 in Waterbury. Actually, originally they were known as the Waterbury Clock Company. Their evolution as a tour de force in horology is absolutely inspiring, and it's an amazing story. Famous for their Mickey Mouse watches of the 30s, their military technology of the 50s, involved with missilery and all kinds of gyroscopes and all kinds of things. Very, very cool indeed. In the 60s, they had many iconic watches like the Marlin, and which we've discussed no end, and I own one myself. Those pin and plate movements really terrified the established watch industry and changed the game, and hence the phrase, "It takes a licking but keeps on ticking." In the 70s and 80s, they kind of slowed down, because they were at, I think the peak was I think the 50s and 60s was their peak, and they were the world's largest manufacturer of timepieces. But they had a bit of a resurgence in the 80s and 90s with their Indiglo backlight and of course the Iron Man. So a hugely important American brand. Now, funnily enough, we mentioned where they were founded. The watch is actually named after where they originally had their factory, Waterbury. So the Waterbury. Now, the older version, for me, in my opinion, is bordering too much on the homage territory. Although I got to admit, I love the way they did their version of the Mercedes hands with a little T for Timex, obviously. Very, very cool. Now, you can still pick these up for about $75 on Amazon. These are 40 millimeters, little simple quartz pieces in a variety of styles, stainless steel. There's a PVD version. However, I do feel it is a little bit too homage, we're kind of crossing the line there. So I'd rather go with one of their latest watches. And I did do an unboxing. I think I did an unboxing of this watch. It's the newer Waterbury, which is called the Waterbury Traditional, 38mm. You can get this also in 42. More of a field watch dial with the 24-hour markings. Quartz again, Indiglow backlight, 50 meters water resistance. Priced at $100, it's very difficult to beat indeed. Clean, simple stainless steel case. There is a date version, although I've got to say the no date is my pick of the bunch. I just think it has that clean balance to it. Number 5, and it is the Ball Engineer 2, also known as the Ohio. This is a 40mm stunner. Really interesting company. I've reviewed 2 of them. Possibly 3. I've reviewed 2, but I'm thinking of 3 because I included them in my top 10 most underappreciated brands of all time. Their history, their legacy is undeniably fascinating and important. American originally, founded by the legendary watchmaker Webster C. Ball, who pioneered creating some of the most spectacular chronometer pocket watches, responsible for the standardized railroad timekeeping, and that is why you'll see the little double R on all the counterbalances of the seconds hand. Very, very important part of American history. And I've discussed it in a little bit more depth in one of my reviews. Do check it out. It's an incredible story. So the emphasis with Ball has always been on precision, reliability, durability, and quality. And actually, above all those things, quality is something that's always impressed me massively about watches from Ball. So the Engineer 2, as the name suggests, is very true to this important thinking behind the brand. It has an anti-magnetic resistance of 4,800 amperes, shock resistant to 5,000 Gs. It has a day date because it is based on the Ball RR1102, which is essentially an ETA 2836, 100 meters water resistance. It has 15 micro gas tubes. These are all done in different colors. Very, very cool. And the tritium gas tubes can last for 25 years. So again, the thinking behind it is all in the details. Aesthetically, it's beautiful. We get those applied Arabic numerals, those wonderful Dauphine hands, that intricate little double R on the seconds hand, very cleanly designed, that lovely smooth bezel. You can get it, I believe, on a bracelet too, but my pick of the bunch is the leather strap. The leather strap is very nicely done indeed. You can get a black or white dial, and these are priced at about $1,300 to $1,500. I highly recommend Ball. They are so underrated. They deserve to be talked about more. So very, very cool indeed. Number 4, we can't talk about robust tool watches without mentioning Fortis, and this is a watch I have actually reviewed. I'll leave a link and all the rest of it. It's the Fortis Spacematic. Now, Fortis have an amazing legacy behind them. Their heritage is like no other. Founded in 1912, still independent to this day. They manufactured the first automatic wristwatch back in 1926, and this was in collaboration with John Harwood, the amazing British inventor and watchmaker. And not only that, they produced in 1943 the first waterproof watch, the Fortissimo, which, if you know Italian, Fortissimo means very, very strong. Perfect integration of Fortis. And actually, the word Fortis has Roman origins. I've discussed all of this. Have a look back at the last watch I reviewed from them, which was my own Fortis, the Cosmonaut Chronograph. And that highlights a great point. They've been the official choice of the Russian Federal Space Agency since 1994. And they've been in space more times than any other brand. So I think G-Shock, the Casio G-Shock, probably can compete, but certainly a lot more than Amiga. And it's a shame because they don't get the recognition that Amiga does. But anyway, so the Spacematic is actually a watch that predates the Fortis, the official cosmonaut chronograph. It came out originally in 1962 and it was designed specifically and tested for very extreme conditions. But the most astonishing thing about this watch is that the original in 1962, the height of the space race, of course, was worn by 7 American astronauts during testing for one of their legendary space flights, which, you know, you can't really beat. It's a legacy you can't beat. Now, the modern Spacematic is very much redesigned. Its DNA unequivocally is from Fliegers and flight watches, although it has a little bit of that space age sci-fi twist with the style of lettering. Now, you can get it in PVD or stainless steel, based on the ETA caliber 2836, of course, date, automatic, 100 meters water resistance, lovely big crown, only 40 millimeters, which is fantastic, scratch resistant sapphire, and those markers, oh, gorgeous, gorgeous. You can find them between about $700 and $1,000. Double check, and if you're in the United States, I recommend Watch Buyers. They are the official authorized dealer for Fortis in the United States. Excellent quality. Fortis are amazing. I love Fortis, and I'm always going to have a Fortis in my collection. So have a look back at my review and, well, various reviews. I've reviewed, I think, 4 or 3 of them now. Number 3, it's got to be the Zinn 556A, and I say A because that's the version with numerals. Now, Zinn is a fascinating brand, founded in 1961 by Helmut Zinn, who recently passed away. God bless his soul. He was a pilot. He took his expertise from obviously being a pilot into watchmaking. Originally they produced dials and instruments for the cockpit, but then diversified into watches. Now, despite only being founded in the 60s, they have achieved so much. I mean, look at the German astronaut Reinhard Furrer wearing one in 1992. They are also the official supplier to the German Special Forces Marine Unit for their federal police. That is the GSG-9. They are Special Deployment Commandos, basically. And I think that kind of epitomizes what Zinn is all about. Real no-nonsense. Predominantly pilots' watches, but they have, you know, exploded into all other genres. And the 556 is a pilot's watch. It's their entry-level piece. You're not going to get any of their famed in-house special technologies that they're so legendary for. However, you do get probably one of the best made watches at that price range. So they are German, and they, in my opinion, their quality rivals some of the Swiss big boys. It really does. When I first bought my Zinn 104, I said, quite controversially, but thankfully most people agree, that the quality rivaled Amiga even. You know, Amigas of 3-4 times the cost. So this is a little 38mm piece. I mean, just look at that dial. High contrast, very legible, big exaggerated Arabic numerals, those typical pilot style hands, that matte black dial. We have a completely satinized case, sapphire glass. Inside we've got the Sellita SW200, although they do regulate it. Display back with the lovely custom gold rotor. It's the top grade chronometer level of the Sellita, so you know you're getting that performance. Anti-reflective coating, I believe on both sides. Dual seal crown lock that improves the water resistance. I believe the water resistance is 200 meters. This is going from memory. I should have jotted it down in my notes. I don't have it here, but yeah, double check, guys. But and correct me if I'm wrong. If you own this watch, do let me know in the comments. But I'm pretty sure it's 200 meters. Now you can get this either on the bracelet or the leather strap. However, if you get it on the leather strap, it's only around about $1,000. You get all this for $1,000. Very, very difficult to beat. And yeah, Zinn, what can you say? I love Zinn. I also have a Zinn, and I will never not have a Zinn in my collection. I love them that much. In fact, I need to wear my Zinn a little bit more. Number 2, we couldn't have made this list without it. It has to be Tudor. So Tudor, if you're not aware, is Rolex's sister brand, founded a little bit later on. So Rolex was, what, 1905 was it? And Tudor was 1926. Named in honor of the British royal dynasty, because that Hans Wilsdorf was a massive, Wilsdorf, sorry, I should say, was a massive Anglophile fan of British culture. But in that time, they've achieved so much. They've made watches for the Royal Navy, for the French Marine Nationale. For a long time, they were a little bit forgotten about and always considered the poor man's Rolex. But recently, they've had a real rebirth and massive cult following among watch enthusiasts. They're very much seen as their own thing now, with a clear, defined identity of their own. Which is ironic, because at the end of the day, they're still very much the affordable alternative to Rolex, and they will always be that. It also has the benefit of being Rolex without the stigma of the Rolex luxury image. To a certain extent, the cooler, slightly wilder younger brother, shall we say. So the reference I'm talking about today is the 79910, which is the Ranger. Now, unmistakably inspired by the Explorer, nobody can deny it, although it does have its own kind of characteristics. Introduced at Baselworld 2014. This is a 40mm exploration kind of field watch. Comes on a leather strap. These are priced at around the 2,000, 2,500. Inside we have an ETA, which, what would you expect? But we do have that lovely rose on the dial. Broad arrow hand, scratch-resistant sapphire, screw-down crown, 150 meters water resistance. The caliber, I believe, is the 2824, although Tudor also do in-house movements, which is another thing we should add to their legacy, although not in this particular, not the Ranger. And you can also get it on a bracelet too. If you want to go vintage, check out the reference 15000. This really is reminiscent of the 1016, the Explorer 1016, although the prices on some of these can be ridiculous and collectors go absolutely gaga for them, and no pun intended, because Lady Gaga, I think, is she an ambassador of Tudor? Yeah, it's a funny old world we live in now, huh? Anyway, the prices can vary. I've seen them go for a couple of grand to 4,000, almost 5,000, which is, you might as well just get an Explorer at that price. But very, very cool indeed. So it's automatic, of course, very clean design. I love the numerals, and they have kind of slightly patinaed them, faux patinaed them a little bit to give it that 1016 vintagey feel. And number 1. Okay, so who's at number 1? Well, you've probably guessed it. I mean, it's no surprise, it's the Seiko Alpinist. Founded in 1881 in Tokyo by Kintaro Hattori, of course. They've changed the game unlike any other watch company. I've done numerous videos on and I've reviewed the Alpinist on various occasions, jeweled it. Incredible watch. Now, the Alpinist range, and there's a fantastic article on the springbar.com as well, so check them out. It was introduced in 1961 and has gone through so many different stages. It was originally inspired by the Yama Otoko, which is mountain men, the Japanese mountain men. It's a big pastime in Japan. In 1995, there was the Red Alpinist, which is highly, highly collectible, very sought after, and the prices have skyrocketed as a result. And then I think in 2006 the Alpinist Saab collection was introduced. And interestingly, the Alpinist is Seiko's second longest running line of watches. They very much are a kind of, not a forgotten about classic, because it has a cult following that's undeniable, but it's very much an iconic watch that is not in so much the mainstream. Current one is the, which has just been discontinued, is the 017 with that very distinctive green sunburst dial. The markings that actually remind me a bit like the Oyster Perpetuals that predate the actual Explorer. We have an inner rotating bezel, which is accessed by a second crown at the 4 o'clock, 200 meters water resistance, 50-hour power reserve with that fantastic Seiko automatic, the 6R15, which is probably one of my favorite, if not my favorite Seiko movement. Hacking, hand winding, sapphire glass of course, amazing cathedral hands. Now you can still find the Alpinist. They're under $500, although the prices are going to skyrocket, and if you're watching this in the future, I'm willing to bet money that there's a new Seiko Alpinist out there. It's just inevitable. They're going to continue it. It's a great legacy. Why not? There's a demand for it. So there's always going to be an Alpinist, whatever. So this video will still apply, will still be relevant in the future. But anyway, we've discussed the Alpinist to death. That is my top 10, guys. Let me know your suggestions in the comments below. I'd really love to hear what you would nominate as your affordable non-homage alternative to the Rolex Explorer. Okay guys, I'm going to leave it there. Thank you very, very much for watching. Please don't forget to like this video if you enjoyed it, found it useful. And as always guys, I will catch you in the next one. Okay, ciao.